The O'Day family is well known in the Canadian province of Newfoundland, where Brian's father owned the local brewery before going into politics. But the family's prominence could not protect their middle son. Abused as a child by his local priest, Brian turned to using and selling drugs for the escape and the excitement they offered. By the early 1980s, he was operating a $100 million a year, 120-man business and had developed a terrifying cocaine addiction. Under increasing threat from the DEA in 1986, he quit the trade and the drugs and began working with recovering addicts in Santa Barbara, California. Despite his life change, the authorities caught up with him years later, and Brian was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 10 years at Terminal Island Federal Penitentiary in Los Angeles Harbor. A born storyteller, Brian O'Day candidly recounts his incredible experiences in the streets of Bogota with a false bottom suitcase lined with cocaine to the engine compartment of an old DC-6 whose engines were failing over the Pacific, to the cell blocks overcrowded with small-time dealers who had fallen victim to the justice system's perverse bureaucracy of drug sentencing. Weaving together extracts from his prison diary with the vivid recounting of his outlaw years and the dawning recognition of those things in his life that were worth living for, High tells the remarkable story of a remarkable man in the late 1980s drug business. Brian O'Day is now gainfully employed as a film and television producer in Toronto, where he lives with his wife and son. He also regularly speaks about his own experiences to young people struggling with addictions. High won the 2007 Arthur Ellis Award for Best Non-Fiction Crime and is currently being adapted into a feature film. Give a big, warm welcome for Brian O'Day.
Thank you.
Hi.
It's hard to follow an introduction like that with anything that's better than that. That's pretty good. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you. I think first of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit about people who are still sitting in prison today. And then I'll read a little bit and you can ask me questions. I spoke last week at a conference in British Columbia. It was a conference for investment people. It was a conference that had 1,000 stockbrokers come to it. And they were all very interested in what 40 companies that had booths at this conference had to say. And I was asked to speak there. So I stood up and I looked out into the audience, and there were suits, all suits, blue suits, black suits, pinstripe suits, beautiful suits. And I said to them, "Welcome to Reefer Madness 2014. You see, they were there to invest in the marijuana business." And I said, "And all of the beautiful suits, I love them. I love those suits. But every one of you sitting in those seats today owe those seats to people in orange suits who are sitting in prison today. I have friends in prison today who are doing 75 years for a ton of non-existent pot. They're inside prison. They're going to die in prison. And they're looking out at all of these pinstripe suits about to make money on a product that they're all doing time for and will die in prison for." So I told those suits that it's their responsibility to shout from the mountaintops as they're making their millions, and they will, to get those people out of prison. Because if they don't do that, then they're rotten people. As far as I'm concerned, most of them are fairly rotten as it is, but you know, there's some good people who are making money today. I have some friends who have money and they're decent people. But money corrupts people. It makes them greedy. It makes them think that they need more. And in order for them to have more, it's okay for others to have less. I'm a capitalist, but I'm a socialistic capitalist. I've made, you know, I had $250 million at one time in a hole in the ground. And what the cops didn't get, I gave away. Because I had no respect for it whatsoever, the money. But I had a good time. And I could tell a lot if I said anything